It is late summer. Your tomato plants are loaded with green fruit, and you can feel the season starting to slip. Most gardeners at this point simply wait and hope. Stacey Murphy has a better approach. In the next 15 minutes, she is going to show you exactly what to do right now. The interventions that redirect your plant's energy into ripening what is already there. And how to bring green tomatoes indoors to ripen perfectly without losing a single one to frost.
You can trim back all the leaves except for maybe like 5 at the top of the plant, and that's just going to force all the plant's energy into ripening fruit because it's all that there is.
This Q&A was recorded at a past Grow Your Own Vegetables event, where Stacey Murphy reveals the end-of-season interventions that ripen green tomatoes fast, and how to bring in the whole plant when frost is coming. For more information, free resources, and gentle guidance, you can find us at growyourownvegetables.org. And to grow alongside other gardeners just like you, join our free community at gyov.org.
Well, so the question is, fruiting and temperature. At 50 degrees Fahrenheit, do tomatoes, eggplants, etc. stop setting fruit, stop growing, stop ripening? Is that daytime? Is that nighttime? Yeah, I totally get it. Okay, so let's take a look at all this. So tomato plants, they will grow below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So the roots and the greens can establish themselves in the early spring. So when I'm in Brooklyn, let's say, and it's spring, when I plant usually about usually about April 15th in Brooklyn, there's no chance for frost. And the daytime temperatures are typically in the, mid 40s-ish. The daytime might be a little bit warmer, but the nighttime definitely does not go below 33, which is freezing. And, or 32, which is freezing. And so what happens is I put them in the ground, and even though they see those colder temperatures, sometimes the nighttime is down to like 40 degrees. So the roots and the greens are still establishing themselves, and they're growing. And then when it hits 50 degrees, basically the plant kind of takes off. And so it gets a little bit of an extra amount of growth. Whereas the fall is different because things are slowing down, which is giving signals to the plant that it's the end of its life cycle. So early cycle and end cycle are different. So tomato plants, they will grow below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. They just don't grow quite as fast, all right? So that's the first thing. Second thing is about those fruits. So blossom drop, which is basically the flowers falling off the plant, that's going to start happening when the nighttime temperatures go below 50. So the daytime temperatures are actually a bit warmer, all right? So if you're experiencing a lot of nights with lower than 50 degrees, what may be happening is that your green fruit is staying on the plant, but your flowers are dropping off. And that's a good thing because you don't want more fruit to form if it's starting to get too cold. You want to force the fruiting to happen of the tomatoes that are there. So that's what the plant's doing. It's like, hey, it's time to pack it up and move it out and ripen all this fruit and drop some seed for the next generation. So basically it's protecting for that, and it's dropping any flowers so that no new fruit can set, because that new fruit would basically take energy away from those ripening tomatoes. Right?
This is the key insight. Blossom drop is not a problem. It is the plant doing exactly what you want it to do. Your job now is to help it focus all of that energy into ripening what is already there.
Tomatoes. All right. So that is with nighttime temperatures below 50 degrees for an extended period of time. It may not happen on the first night it hits 50. You're not going to walk out and see all your flowers drop. But if you're seeing like a couple nights where it's below 50 degrees, you're going to start seeing that your flowers are starting to disappear on you. All right. Blossom drop also happens. Flower dropping happens above 95 degrees, and that's because the pollen grains inside are bursting. Sometime around if the daytime. That second piece should say nighttime. Nighttime above 75. So if the plant never cools down below 75 degrees, those pollen grains start to burst. And so that's when daytime temperatures are above 95 and nighttime is above 75. This is why it's confusing, because I sometimes say things incorrectly. So I apologize for that. Okay, so that's what blossom drop is. Now, there are cold hardy tomato varieties that can exist below 50 degrees and still do a little bit of blossom setting. The first line here, starting with Early Girl, is a set of hybrids, and a couple of those are things that I grow pretty regularly. The lower row are heirlooms that are cold hardy. So if you're in a region where your growing season is short, you might want to grab cold hardy tomatoes. They're usually also shorter maturing. They mature faster. So let's talk about these temperatures a little bit more. So let's say you have a couple nights below 50 degrees Fahrenheit and you're getting worried about your tomatoes. So your tomatoes will still ripen, but they're going to ripen a little bit more slowly. So first the flowers will drop. And then the tomatoes that are there are going to continue to ripen until basically a freeze hits your plant, all right? So what you can do is you can basically cover your plants with these homemade or store-bought little mini greenhouses if you have just a couple plants, or you can create some sort of structure around your tomatoes. The ones here, these homemade ones on the left, it looks like those were put up in the spring to try to get a head start in the season. So what the plastic is going to do is, number one, it's going to, during the daytime, the temperatures are going to increase inside the plastic. The sun is going to get magnified so that when it cools off at night, it's not going to drop quite as low. Now, the store-bought is going to be much easier to deal with because it has zippers. The homemade ones are like kind of an emergency situation. It's like, oh crap, I have a couple of days, like 7 days of cold temperatures, and then the temperatures are going to get warmer again. What do I do in a hurry? Well, you're not going to have to touch those tomatoes so much, so you could wrap them. Here it's probably wrapped in something like saran wrap, so some sort of plastic that's sturdy, that's going to hold up to the wind. Saran wrap might be a little bit too thin depending on how you use it. So some options. Now, some end of season tricks. So the tomatoes the green tomatoes are on the vine. It's hitting those lower temperatures. Oh, I should mention one more thing. The other thing that you can do to keep your tomato plants warmer is some farmers do this, but it's kind of hard. The reason I didn't share an image of it is that if you didn't set it up initially, it's hard to add later. But what they'll do is they'll put down a plastic mulch over the soil, which keeps the soil warmer. And so what that does is when the soil stays a little bit warmer, the plant stays a little bit warmer. So even if it's like 50 degrees outside, the soil might be more like 60 degrees. And so it gives the tomatoes some extra time. Keep in mind, too, that what's cool is the raised beds sometimes stay a little bit warmer than the in-ground gardens. So if you have raised beds, you might be a couple of degrees warmer as well. Okay, so at the end of the season, here's a couple tricks. So basically what's happening is the weather's getting colder, and once it hits 50, the plant says, okay, it's time to reproduce, because it's going to get even, like now we hit 50 and it's going to just keep getting colder, you know? So it wants to send its energy to the fruit that are going to ripen, produce seeds. It's going to drop those seeds and produce the next generation. So you want to kind of force the plant to focus on that if you want to maximize the number of red tomatoes. So the first, or whatever color they are, right? So you can do the process of trying to keep them as warm as possible for as long as possible, that we just talked about with some sort of like mini greenhouse. And then if your temperatures in the greenhouse, you can put a little thermometer inside there, and when it starts to go below 50, remember that's daytime temperature 50, so it's pretty significant, right? It happens pretty quickly in the fall. So at that point, what you can do, when inside the greenhouse is going below 50 regularly, you can trim back all the leaves except for maybe like 5 at the top of the plant, and that's just going to force all the plant's energy into ripening fruit because it's all that there is. The photosynthesis is slowing down. There's not as much daylight, so it's focusing the energy. Once the fruit starts to turn color, you could decide to pick that for indoor ripening and allow the others to ripen, because it's possible that if you let them ripen completely on the vine, that not all of them are going to ripen. So you make the decision. What's more important? That you get the most amount of them ripening, or you get the most delicious red one ripening on the vine, and then maybe you pick any green tomatoes that don't ripen all the way and do something else with them. So you have to kind
Write
of
this down. This one action dramatically accelerates the ripening of everything already on your plant. The leaves are no longer helping. Remove them, and the energy goes exactly where you need it.
Else with them. So you have to kind of choose which direction you're going to go. Because sometimes when a fruit starts to turn color, it will completely ripen indoors, but it doesn't always taste the same as vine ripened. Some people see a difference. So that's why some people leave them on the vine instead of pulling them indoors, but other people want all of them to ripen, and they're okay with sacrificing a little bit of flavor because they want all of them to ripen. So they'll pick anything that's turning color to let the other ones ripen in. And then you want to reduce your watering, because that basically stresses the plant a little bit, increases the maturity of those tomatoes. Some people will even, and I've never done this to test it, I don't know how you would get enough of a sample size to see if this makes a difference, but I've heard that if you kind of just pull on the root system just a little bit, just enough, so that you feel the plant move a little bit, it sends a signal to the tomato plant. It's a little stressed, and it will basically say like, oh, we got to set seed, ripen all that fruit and drop that seed, because something is trying to tear us apart. I prefer not to do that, but that's an opportunity. And along that same line, some people will basically cut the stem or just pull up the plant with some of the root system. They'll kind of shake off any of the soil, and they'll bring that whole plant indoor. They'll hang it somewhere to dry, and those fruit will continue to ripen on the vine. So if it's too cold outside, if it's warmer inside, they're going to ripen faster. So that's the idea behind that. So you get kind of like room temperature, which is perfect for tomatoes.
This is the most satisfying end-of-season move in gardening. Your whole plant comes indoors. Every tomato on it continues to ripen at room temperature, and nothing, not a single tomato, goes to frost.
Tomatoes, hopefully you can find someplace that has a little bit of light. It's not total darkness. And of course, anything that you bring inside, you can put it in a sunny windowsill. That works pretty well. Some people prefer the bag method, where they basically put it in like a darkened bag and it'll ripen. Some people swear by, what the tomato industry does is they pump ethylene gas into tomato trucks in order to get the tomatoes to ripen. But a lot of us know that like the tomatoes don't taste all that great, because they've been kind of ripened, picked green and then ripened with ethylene gas. But if your tomato is starting to turn colors and already starting to ripen, or if you have the whole plant and you're bringing it indoors, things like fruits, like apples, those are things that have a lot of ethylene producing gas, and if you keep them close to those tomatoes, they could potentially ripen faster. So those are some end of season tricks. And just some timing to give you a sense of, okay, should I keep the green tomatoes or not? And like, what should I pull the whole plant out, or should I wait for things to ripen outside? Keep in mind this timing. So how much season do you have left until it's lower than 50 degrees during the daytime regularly? Because that's basically when you're going to stop having blossoms. So keep in mind, blossom to like a full-size tomato, let's say it's a big tomato. Cherry tomato is a little bit different. It's a little bit shorter, but a kind of a normal-sized tomato, from the time it's a flower to full size, it's about 20 to 30 days. That's pretty significant, right? That's why those flowers fall off when they do. And then it's another 20 to 30 days for that mature green fruit to begin to change color. And then the ripening takes another couple days. It just depends on the variety. So that's what you're up against. So you can kind of look at your fruit and make a decision. Okay, if it's a small, if I have a ton of flowers, and I have a ton of fruit, I might sacrifice the flowers in order to force the maturing process to happen more quickly. If I have a bunch of green tomatoes, and I know they're going to take 20 to 30 days, but it's getting cold outside, maybe I just bring them inside and let them ripen, drying inside, right? So those are some ideas about the timing. And Stephanie had a similar question. She said she has tomatoes in the ground, lots of green tomatoes, slowly ripening, about to get a cold spell, down to 33 degrees Fahrenheit at night, 40 to 50 during the day for a few days. Then temperatures will go up to 40 at night and 67 to 70 and sunny during the day for a few more weeks. I bought a few row cover cloths for the tomatoes and have hoops and plastic to cover the cooler weather crops. So what I would do if I were you is I would probably, you have the covers, I would keep them in the ground and I would put the covers up. And where are we? Let's see. So I would leave them in the ground, and I would basically, oops, that's the next question. I would probably cover them like you're talking about. And it sounds like you have hoops and row cover and plastic. Cool. How do they survive? Yeah, if you had plastic to cover them, I would leave them in the ground for a little bit longer because they're gonna ripen a little bit faster, and it sounds like if you're gonna get 40 at night, 67 to 70 during the day, if you had a cover, that nighttime temperature would still be something like 50 at night. So you're still in that ideal range. So get those covers up. And when you have that cold spell for a few days, as long as they're covered, you might lose your flowers, but that might not be an issue if you have a lot of green tomatoes because you're not going to lose the tomatoes.
Think about where you were at the start of this video. A garden full of green tomatoes, frost coming, no plan. Now, look at what you know. When nights drop below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, the plants stop setting new flowers, and that is exactly what you want. Help it focus. Cover plants with plastic to hold warmth at night. Trim all leaves except the top 5 and force all remaining energy into the fruit that is already there. Reduce watering to add mild stress that accelerates maturity. And if frost is coming, pull the whole plant. Bring it indoors. Hang it up. Every tomato keeps ripening at room temperature. Keep apples nearby to speed the process. Stacey Murphy has been rescuing late-season harvests for years. Not a single tomato has to go to frost. You are not the gardener who watches green tomatoes go to frost anymore. You are the one who trims the leaves and concentrates the energy, who covers the plants when cold nights arrive, who brings the whole plant indoors when frost is imminent, who keeps an apple on the windowsill next to the green ones. If you want to keep learning from Stacey Murphy, there is a whole community of gardeners growing extraordinary food, completely free at growyourownvegetables.org. This Q&A was recorded at a past Grow Your Own Vegetables event, and what Stacey just shared with you took her years of growing, failing, and figuring out to discover. Now imagine sitting down with 15 experts, exactly like her. 15 of the most respected gardeners, herbalists, and soil scientists on the planet, each sharing the single most powerful lesson they know, the insight that changed everything about how they grow food, the thing they wish someone had told them at the beginning. Clinical herbalists who can turn your garden into a medicine cabinet, soil scientists who will change how you see every handful of dirt, food growers who have fed entire communities from a backyard. All of it waiting for you right now, completely free at the Superfood Garden Summit. Go to growyourownvegetables.org/summit, register in 30 seconds, and start watching immediately.